Thank you, everyone, and good evening. As you already know, I'm Chris Williams, and I'm here to help you navigate the painting tonight, A Ride in Summer. We're going to have a lot of fun. This is just simply a little 5x7 canvas panel, and it's just a simple little bicycle with a little basket of some lavender type flowers in the background on the back of the bicycle there. And in the studio with me tonight, I don't want to forget that and let you know that Stephen White, my good friend and co-worker, is here with me tonight, and he's going to help moderate any questions. And Stephen, feel free to interrupt, because we all know once we wind me up and get going, I just nonstop talk. So if there's a question that I miss in the chat there, be sure and Stephen, go ahead and interrupt me, and we'll do the best we can to get that question answered for you. So first and foremost tonight, I think we can go ahead and go overhead so that we can dive right into our painting tonight. This is my little canvas. It is a 5x7 canvas panel that I painted on, but any 5x7 surface would work for our little A Ride in Summer. And I'm going to paint again tonight on another canvas panel. And a pro tip that we've shared so many times in our classes, both here on Michael's Community Classroom and within our Let's Paint program, is that we love to share with you that all you can do, because maybe you don't want to hold on to this while you're painting and possibly get wet paint on your fingers as you're painting towards the edges of your canvas, we often will take like any kind of tape. A lot of times it's the blue painter's tape or the green frog tape, and we'll make tape loops, tape it onto the back of the canvas, and then tape it down onto another surface. This happens to be just a piece of illustration board. It's the back side of the illustration board. And so therefore, when I am painting tonight, if I go off the edge of the canvas to like get these edges or the sides here, I don't have to worry about getting paint on my fingers, nor do I have to worry about getting paint onto my work surface. So this is a great pro tip if you don't yet already know about it. My 5x7 canvas, besides being attached to my working board here, I also have my pattern transferred. There was a free downloadable pattern for you to locate. It was right on the same registration page that you signed up there on Michael's, and we're probably adding that to the recording lesson today. And oh, and there it is. It's being posted for you for the handout. So what I often like to do is, once I have my pattern here, you can use this over your surface and slide a piece of graphite paper between, but I often like to trace mine out onto tracing paper first and then position that, because oftentimes you can see through your tracing paper to make sure that you're lining it up with your edges and your sides correctly and so on. And then I use artist graphite paper. It's called graphite paper. And I use the graphite side of the artist transfer paper down onto the canvas, kind of sliding this in between like a sandwich with the graphite side down. Then I'll take something like an artist tool like this. This is called a stylus. This one is a double-ended stylus. Another tool that you could use is just simply a dead ballpoint pen. You retrace over all the pattern lines, and this will then transfer the design directly onto the canvas for you. That's what I've done ahead of time for the class tonight. And I'm going to set my pattern and everything aside. So for tonight, all you're going to see is the one I'm painting and then our finished hero here. Let's go ahead and get started. I hope some of you are going to venture along and paint with me tonight. If you're not and you're just watching and possibly taking notes, that's great too. This is being recorded so that you'll be able to paint along at your leisure, whenever you want to. So I'm going to go ahead and work tonight with FolkArt multi-surface acrylics. These are the paints that are formulated for all kinds of surfaces, including the canvas that we're working on tonight. They also work well on wood, on terracotta, on fabric, on tin, on paper mache, on paper itself. There's so many different surfaces that this paint works on. The color that I just put out onto my palette is a big, bright, bold, beautiful apple red. It's a nice, bright apple red color. I'm also going to go ahead and put out a little bit of our white. I'm working with Wicker white tonight. There's also titanium white. I'm going to add a little bit of a black, and I'm using Licorice tonight. You could also use pure black. And then I'm going to put two more colors out. And one is a bright sunny yellow, kind of a subdued, when I say bright, but it's also a real buttery yellow color. And this is called Daybreak. And then I'm also going to put out a very vibrant green, and that is lime green. So I'll go over those colors one more time for everyone. What I put out on my palette first was the apple red, wicker white, licorice, the daybreak, and then our bright yellowy green is lime green. So those are the colors I'm going to start with tonight. And then as we get closer to working on the basket on the back of the bike, and then our flowers and our grass, we're going to add a couple other colors. So I'm going to work a lot of tonight's painting because we're working on such a small surface, and the painting shapes are also small in size, you know, like all the little pipes here that make up our bicycle. They're very small in size. I'm going to use mostly a liner brush tonight. And let's go ahead and start with our apple red. Go ahead and take your liner brush filled with apple red, and let's just start painting in the red areas of the bike. So if by chance you printed out a color picture of tonight's project, you can use that. If you want to just paint along with me, just simply, it's almost kind of a paint by number, this particular style right now. We're just going to paint in all of these shapes red. And so you can use long, smooth strokes with your liner brush, or you can do maybe an outline on each of the sections and then fill them in if they get bigger. But I think if you use a little bit of pressure, you could probably cover each of these little pipes that make up the bicycle in just 2 strokes, probably. One on each edge of that pattern line. I want to get the red on here of our bike and a couple other little details of the bike done. And then what we'll do is we'll come and work the background, that bright yellowy green background, after we get the base of our bike on. So if you are painting along with me tonight, feel free to let us know that. If you're just watching tonight and plan to paint on the replay, perhaps today was a very long day for you at work, dealing with the dinner and the kids, and maybe you're a little tired tonight and you're just kind of watching along. That's absolutely fine. You already know that this is being recorded, and we hope that you'll be able to paint along with us after you locate it on YouTube sometime tomorrow. If you are painting along with us, or maybe I should phrase it like this, when you do paint your bicycle, a ride in summer, I hope that you will take a picture of it and share your work with us in the Facebook group, Let's Paint with Plaid. We have a lot of fun there. If you're not familiar with it, it is on Facebook, and all you have to do is just search Let's Paint with Plaid. You'll find lots and lots of free downloadable classes there, and live streams that we teach now during the summer once a month or once a week. It's a really fun group. You're welcome to take a picture of your work and share it there in the group. How are we doing, Stephen? Any questions just yet?
We're doing good. If I see any questions, I will relay them over to you.
Okay, perfect. I'm wondering how many of you still ride bicycles. We were talking about this while we were waiting for the class to start, and how many people still have a bicycle, whether you ride it, whether you use it, whether it's sitting in the garage collecting dust. I was saying that I have one in my garage that was the bike that belonged to my now 32-year-old daughter, who is now married with her own family and living in Pennsylvania. And I asked her the last time she came into town and visited if she wanted to take her bike with her, and she said no. So I'm like, okay, now what to do with that bike? All right, just keep looking at the pattern and looking at the spaces, and just at your own pace, everywhere that you see some red, that's what we're painting right now, is we're painting all of the red areas of the bike. So there is, oh, I didn't do my handlebars. There's the handlebars and the front area of the bike. There's areas around the wheels. I'm working right now, if you're watching, I'm working on the two back support pieces that hold that back fender and the basket area up.
Chris, Perry wants to know what you ended up doing with the bike.
It's still in my garage.
Also, Jan asked, did you paint the seat red? I don't know if she means on your real bike or if she's asking about the painting, but as far
On
as the
the
paint
painting,
goes,
yeah,
you've only used red so far.
I did, yes. Everything I've painted so far is red and my seat is painted, so yes. And I'm now kind of working on that. I think we call this a fender, do we, Stephen? This
That
back,
sounds right.
yeah.
I'll be honest, I would not know, but I think that sounds right. Somebody in the
Uh,
chat will let us know, though, I'm sure.
Yeah, they can tell us if we're calling it out wrong. And I very well could be wrong. I do not expect to be known as an aficionado of bicycle pieces and parts. I do remember learning how to ride a bike, and I did enjoy many, many years as a child riding a bike, but I'm not a bike rider as of recent years. This is not hard. It's just a matter of getting some of the paint on the canvas, and we're just getting all of the red areas kind of filled in. It's just almost a paint by number, like I said earlier. There is a little support piece here on behind the seat above the back wheel or tire. And that's not really a table per se, but it's a back support piece that's holding our little bucket or basket. So don't forget that. I've got that. I've got all of the pieces around the spokes of the wheel. I got the seat, got the support for the seat. I need to do my front fender and my handlebars, and then I'll have my red areas kind of filled in. Now, if by chance tonight, because of our time limit, I might be painting a little bit faster than what you like to paint, please, 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 I want you to paint at your pace and feel comfortable, and I want you to enjoy your lessons. So if you feel like maybe you're falling a little behind because you do enjoy painting at a slower pace, good for you. There's absolutely nothing wrong with that. Feel free to take the time you need and enjoy the lesson and just paint as much as you can, and then feel free to finish up later, because again, this class is being recorded and you'll have all the information you need to finish your painting if you don't get it finished tonight.
Chris, is this a 5x7 canvas board?
You got it, Stephen. It sure is.
Awesome. Thank you.
Uh-huh. All right, class, I'm going to hold mine up. These are all the red areas of the bike. I'll kind of go over them without knowing correct labels, but we have handlebars, and we have a vertical support piece that holds the handlebars that connects to the front wheel. We have the fender around the front wheel. There's two support pieces that go down towards our gear system here, where we actually pedal. Maybe it's our pedal system, we'll call that. And then there's a cover over that. There's two horizontal covers. We have a back fender piece. We have a support for our back basket. And then there's three more support pieces that come to the center spoke of the wheel. So that's all of the red. I'm going to go ahead and clean out my liner brush. And I'm going to fill my brush right now with our licorice. That's the next color I'm going to start working with. So my brush is cleaned of the apple red. I'm still using that liner brush. With our licorice, what we're going to do is we're going to do the two black tires. I'll bring my hero up in case you want to see. The tires are painted black. So that's the most outside part of our circle that we have here. And don't worry if you don't get them exactly even, or maybe you get a little wonky on one side. This is a piece of folk art. We're going to have some flowers coming up at the base of our wheels because our little bicycle is kind of like in a field of flowers. So be kind to yourself and just do the best you can painting that outside black tire. If it helps you to know, this little section that I just did, it took me 3 strokes. So I did one on the outside band of the circle, one on the inside band of the circle, and then I just kind of filled in a little bit wherever it did not meet. A lot of that is based on the size of the brush you're using and the amount of pressure you put on the canvas as you are painting. If you apply a lot of pressure, obviously the bristles of your brush are going to fan out wider and you'll be able to cover more space, in like less strokes, if that makes sense. I'm
Chris,
actually using, go ahead.
you repeat what size liner you're using?
I'm using a number 1, Stephen.
Gotcha. Thanks.
Great question. So just go ahead and fill in those black tires. Don't worry about like not turning your work. As you can see, if you're watching, I turn my work often. I want to make it easy for me to be able to do the strokes, to pull my brush in the right direction. Some things too, it's best to kind of find your groove. When you do line work, sometimes people have to be very, very quiet, no talking, so that their brush can just flow in the right direction. Sometimes people have to stop breathing and hold their hold their breath for a moment. Some people like to pull towards you. Some people pull away from you. Work side from maybe left side to right side if you're right-handed. Find your comfort level. Find your swing, if you will. There's absolutely no right or no one way only. There's several right ways. Everyone will find their comfort level. I do like to try and tell people, especially if you're a beginner learning to paint with long, smooth strokes if you can. And I am thinning my paint on this liner brush a little bit with a little bit of water, not a tremendous amount, but a little bit of water. And that's helping me allow this black paint, licorice paint, to flow, especially because this particular little 5x7 canvas panel has a little texture to it. Here's a good example of what I was telling you earlier. I'm going to hold up my back wheel. I did one stroke towards the outside of that pattern line, one stroke towards the inside with very light pressure and the thinned black paint. And now what I'll do is do the third stroke going in to kind of fill in or color book paint in the full tire. And you can see I'm only doing like a section at a time. And now I'll turn my work and I'll work on the next section. Some of your tires may fall off the edge here of our canvases too. So no worries. Again, this is just a piece of folk art. Stephen, did we have anybody telling us that they like to ride bikes?
We had a lot of people say they would get an electric bike.
Oh, that's popular now, isn't it?
Yeah.
I see a lot of electric bikes as I commute to and from work. I see electric scooters too.
Oh yeah, we've got a lot of those in Atlanta.
I think you can even rent them downtown, can't you?
Yeah, you can. There's like apps that'll link up your phone to a scooter and then you can go as long as you need it.
And then I think the drop off and pickup places are all varying different locations, and you can drop off in different locations too, can't you?
Yeah, lots of people just kind of leave them wherever, which is which is a problem on itself. But yeah, you can. There's like specific drop off places and all that.
I think it's kind of cool.
Are we ever going to see you riding one of those electric scooters, Chris?
Only if you stand by, Stephen, and have a box of Band-Aids ready for me.
Got you covered.
Ah, I could easily see you with one. Now, do the helmet laws work for those little bikes too? Do you have to have the helmet for those?
I
elec-
don't think I've ever seen anybody wear a helmet and ride one of those. So,
Okay, I
you know,
wasn't sure.
I don't know if that answers your question or not, but I'm not familiar with scooter law.
Okay, we're going to do one more color on our bike. Actually, I'm sorry, we're going to do two more colors on our bike, and then we're going to work our background in. I think I just saw somebody pose that question. When does the background color come in? I want to have some of this base down, and then we're going to put the background color on. Now, if you were ever painting this at home on your own, you might want to do the whole canvas with the background after I teach you how to do that, and then transfer the designs for the bike and paint your red on top of your background and so on. But tonight, because we have a limited time together, we just work around the best we can with the timing to be able to paint everything. So I am going to work our background here in just a moment. I cleaned my black paint, the Licorice FolkArt multi-surface paint, out of my brush. I'm still working with that same #1 liner brush. I'm now loading it with a little bit of our white. And the white may not show up as much right now because we're working against a white canvas. But what I want to do on our wheels, just inside the black now, there's a ring of white all the way around on both of the tires. So the white comes next, and it's just, if you didn't transfer that line, it's okay. Just paint a small white thin line right up next to your black. I might suggest that you still work in the same order. If you did your front tire black first, then do the white first on this. And the reason I say that is your black might be a little bit more dry and set up. I did my front one first, so I'm just going to go ahead and do the same thing again. I'm going to put a little bit of white paint all the way around the inside of this tire, right up next to and as close to the black as I can. I'm just doing a thin white line. This is that inner ring of the tire. And then once you finish the front tire, you can go ahead and do the white on the back tire again, or for the first time, I should say. Repeat this step again. Just a little bit of white all the way around the inner ring of our black tire, our black rubber tire. Stephen, did you ride a bike as a child?
I did. I remember it took me way longer to do it than probably other kids because I think I was like scared or just like hesitant to try something new. But I remember I saw a kid in my neighborhood ride her bike without training wheels before I did, and she was younger than me, and I think that like motivated me as a child to just go ahead and get it done.
It's the balance thing, right?
It is, yeah.
Y'all, as we were getting ready for tonight's class, I was looking up different bicycle sayings, and I Googled just, like, what's it like riding a bike kind of a thing. And I found a saying that what comes from Albert Einstein I want to share with y'all tonight. And it says, life is like riding a bicycle. To keep your balance, you must keep moving. And I think that goes well, like Stephen was talking about the training wheels. Once those training wheels come off, it's a balance thing I think you're afraid of. So once you get the pedals moving and you start actually bicycling in the forward direction, if you keep going, I think that helps what keeps you balanced. All right, folks, I've got my white rings now inside my black tires. I added one more color to my palette, and this is classic French gray. If you don't have that, a nice medium gray would work. You could even take your black and your white and mix and even brush mix a little pile of gray. But you want to have a gray out on your palette now. I'm going to use my liner brush loaded with my classic French gray. And what I'm going to do now is there's a little metal part here. I guess it would be like stainless steel, maybe it's aluminum, whatever the bike frame is. There's a little part that connects our red support piece and our red handlebar. So we need to paint that in with a little bit of gray. So let's go ahead and do that real quick. And again, it's a very small little area. You use that liner brush loaded with your gray and just solidly kind of paint that in. On the support piece that holds our seat, there's two little spots of gray. I'll bring this up real close and I'm kind of pointing to them. See that little bit of gray? It's almost like two little bolts or support pieces between our red here. So we need to put a couple bands of gray here, there. And then what we're going to do on the pedal portion down here, there's a little wheel for the gears, I guess, to go on. And then our little pedal, that's all painted gray. But what I want you to do just now is go ahead and just paint the circle and then the pedal. Don't worry about the little spokes right now. Just the circle of the, that holds the gears. And then the little solid piece that comes down and the pedal. That's all your classic French gray or medium gray, mixing the black and white to make a gray. And we're also going to do another little section of gray, and that's going back to the circles of our tires. The next row in from our black, our white, to the next row in, making another full circle, is going to be a very small little line. I'll bring mine up real close so you can see a very small little line of the gray. Do not do the inside spokes right now. We're just doing a circle of the gray. Okay? So again, it's the handlebar support piece, a couple little bolts here on the underneath the seat. There is the wheel that is maybe the gear, and then the little pedal that comes down. And then just inside, right along the white that you just painted, we're going to do a little bit of a very small little gray line inside your wheels, or tires, I should say. Any other questions up to this point?
I think we're good.
Okay, good. I can't wait to see everyone's. Remember, do take a picture and post it in social media. You can post it in our Let's Paint group. If you do, we'd love for you to use a couple different hashtags. One is Make It With Michaels. One is Let's Paint Challenge.
Is this a liner brush 1 or 2?
This is number 1, Stephen.
Gotcha.
I'm number 1. We're working with number 1 tonight. And again, don't worry about making them perfect. We're good. Okay, so how we doing, everybody? I hope you're keeping up with me. I missed one little bit of red that I'm going to come back, and it's between these two bolts on this support piece of the seat here. I just need to put a little bit of red in. All right, now I'm going to clean out that liner brush, and we're going to put it down for a minute. We're going to go ahead and start working with a larger flat brush. And for this small canvas, I'm only going to work tonight with our number 12 flat. If you have a 3/4 inch flat and feel comfortable doing something larger, you can do that. But what we're going to do is start working on this background now. And that's one reason why I didn't want you to do the spokes, because part of our background will be done on the interior of our bike wheels too, or tire areas. So I have out on the palette our yellow, which again was Daybreak. And then I have lime green. So I'm going to do what I often call a slip slap technique. And I'm going to put a little bit of my yellow on the flat end of the brush. So you can see here, it's just half of the flat brush. I just stroked into the puddle of the paint. Then on that same side of the flat brush, but on this opposite corner, I'm now going to stroke into our green. So I'm going to have a brush that has both yellow and green on the flat of the brush. This side that has the paint in it is what's going to go down to my canvas. And I am going to use a method where I'm going to do it on my palette so you can see if you're not familiar with this. I often hold my brush back on the handle rather than up close, because you'll find you get a little bit more movement going back on the handle. And I'm going to do a slip and a slap, a slip and a slap. I'm overlapping the strokes, but I'm just kind of going here and there all over. I'm going to eventually cover the whole entire background, reloading my brush. And then what we can do is we can come back, and if you want to add more green towards your outside edges, which you can see on mine, I do have a little more green, more yellow towards the center of my piece. You can just accent then with those colors as you begin to fill it in. So I am just wildly and crazily slipping and slapping that brush here on my palette and onto the background here. Let me bring it up so you can see. It's very haphazard. You want a mottled effect. You do not want it overly blended. You want to see bits of green. You want to see bits of yellow. And the more you work it, I'm bringing it back up again in case you want to look. You can see it's very mottled. It's not well blended. And I'm just kind of being wild with that brush, letting it slip and letting it slap. When you decide that you're ready to start getting closer to your bicycle, the best thing to do is to take that chisel edge of the brush, and I'm going right up along the black of my tires right now, and just kind of use that chisel edge to slide up next to that portion of the bike. And then you can slip slap again as you get closer, being careful not to kind of get into what you have already painted. So as I get closer to the bike, I'm going to continue that motion of using the chisel edge of my brush. You know, it's kind of like when you paint a wall. You always will do what they call cutting in. Well, this is kind of like that. You paint around the door frame or the window frame before you actually paint the large portion of the wall. Well, that's kind of what we're doing here. We are cutting in and around the shape of our bike. And it doesn't take long to do this. It goes pretty fast. And notice I'm still keeping that mottled effect. I'm not worrying about blending those colors. I do often stop to reload my brush and use that chisel edge to do the work as you come up and around close to that portion, whatever portion you're on, of that bicycle. I load my brush, I do the chisel edge, then I slip slap around where I have painted that. And then by the time I'm ready to move on, I often will stop and reload my brush again. So I would go, if you're painting along with me tonight, go around the outside of your bike first, like I am doing here. I'm going around all of the outside edges of our bike. Then we'll come and work on some of the interior areas. We want this to be kind of bright, summery-like. That's why we have so much yellow in the center. We have a lot of green because summer is always about growth. And we want to show that we have some life in our painting. when you have large open spaces, go ahead and really kind of get that brush going and move it fast if you can. Because sometimes in the slip slap technique, the quicker you're able to apply that paint onto your surface, the better the modeled look kind of turns out. Now my bike areas that I am working around right now are dry. If yours are not dry and you don't want to be careful, especially like where I'm at the bottom of my painting now, I'm coming around bicycle wheels and tires. If your black is by chance wet, take a moment and let it dry so that you don't accidentally knock into it. And then your yellow becomes a different shade of green because yellow and black will make a green. Okay, keep working. This is where our first steps, the liner brush was doing all of the work. This technique right now, our chisel edge and the flat of the brush is doing all of the work. The chisel edge is helping you work around the areas. The flat of the brush is giving you that mottled slip slap effect.
Chris, what size flat are you using?
I'm using a number 12.
Gotcha. Thank you.
Uh-huh. All right, everyone, I'm going to have you look at mine right now. I have all of the exterior around my bike completely worked, but now you can see we need to have the background here in the wheels behind the spokes, in between our braces here that are our support pieces. So I'm going to do the same thing, just keep working with my chisel edge of the brush along some of these support pieces, and then like as an example, I'm working between these, what connects the front to the bike to the back of the bike. I am just kind of using my chisel edge on both sides, and then I'm going to slap in the middle. This part doesn't take long because these spaces are so small. And sometimes you might just need to turn that flat brush up and use just a portion of the chisel of the brush. But don't try and downsize and worry about getting smaller, because I was taught many, many years ago when I was first learning how to paint, the quicker you can learn to use a larger size brush, the better off you are and the more professional a look you'll receive, and also the quicker you can paint. Not that there's ever a race, but you'll cover your strokes and the distance of your strokes much, much better, quicker than if you go downsizing to a smaller brush. Inside your wheel, there is, I know it's not called a hubcap, but the very center where the spokes of the wheel come in, there's a little round circle there. That's going to be later painted when we paint our spokes in. That's going to be painted in gray. So you can leave that center little circle. I'm bringing it up right now. You can leave that free of paint right now. These all have been good questions so far tonight. So if you have any others, just keep them coming. We're here to try and help you paint a beautiful painting tonight. I am coming near the end of my background. I'm just kind of working inside the last little tire. Just a little bit more. It's almost kind of like pieces of a pie here in this section that I'm working in now. Just kind of filling in a little bit. All right. Okay, I have basically got all of my background on, and now's a good time to kind of decide how you want to maybe change it up or spice it up if you want to. I think I might just add a little bit more green. I'm going to bring mine up so you can see it looks awful yellow from when you're looking on the screen here, but I think I'm going to add a little bit more green around the edges, and I'm just kind of picking up just a side load of my green and patting that on in a very haphazard way. I don't want to be very particular about that because our background is kind of, like I keep using the word modeled. It's very brushed on, but not mixed in. And I'm going to probably darken all of my corners, although these ones down here won't show too much once we get our grassy fields on. Okay. All right, folks, let's go ahead and clean our brush now. And I'm going to get one more color out onto our palette. Actually, I should probably go ahead and get all the rest of the colors out because we're going to get close to using them too. I'm going to go ahead and put out on my palette a little bit of Pueblo. Pueblo, you don't need a lot, but Pueblo is like a, like a terracotta color. I'm also going to get the purple out that we're going to work with tonight, and that's Violet Pansy. And there's one more green that we don't have out on our palette. And this green here is called lime green. It's a very bright yellowy green. We're going to get kind of like a medium value green out on our palette. And this will be our grassy areas and the green of our flower stems. And that is, classic green. That's classic green. So those are the greens, classic green, lime green. I added Violet Pansy and Pueblo. All right, folks, let's go ahead and take a small flat brush now. I have in my hand here a number 6 flat. Load that with our Pueblo, and we are going to paint this small little basket area that's on the back of our bike. So that's just solid Pueblo. I'm going to use that chisel edge to help me get some straight lines, although we are going to fill this basket with some flowers. So if you by chance have a little bit of a wonky top, don't worry about it. That will change once we add some floral designs there in it, a little bit of a lavender flowers. Okay. My little container is filled up with our Pueblo color. While I still have Pueblo in my brush, I'm going to take the flat of that brush and dip just a tiny bit of a corner of one corner of that brush into some licorice. And then I'm going to come here and blend on the palette. With Pueblo and licorice, as you blend those two colors together, you're going to get almost like a burnt umber color. It's going to turn into a deep, rich brown. And what I want to do with that is I want to put some of that on both ends, the left end and the right end of our basket and along the bottom. So I'm going to keep that brush that has the now almost like burnt umber color. And I'm just going to pat that color down. Let me bring that up so you can see. Can you see how that left edge has been darkened a little bit? I took that side of the brush that has that now dark brown, and I just simply patted on that side. Again, I started on the left side, so I'm patting on the left side, keeping that color to the left of the basket. Now I'm going to pat that color on along the bottom of the basket and then up the right side. And we are not going to worry about any more fancy shading. We're not going to worry about any specific highlighting. We're going to keep it very, very simple. And I'm going to clean my brush. Okay, now what I want to do is I want to, let's see, let's move on right now to the spokes of our wheels and the spokes of our little pedal area. Oh, I forgot to put some background color in there. I'm sorry, let me back up. I've got yellow and a little bit of green. I needed to put some of that background color inside where our pedal portion is. There we go. All right, now I'm going to Move on. I'm going to go back to our gray. This was again classic French gray. I'm going to use my liner brush, and you can start on the inside of the tire area right along the rims here, and you can stroke and pull in towards this center little area. Or if it's easier for you to start here and pull out to the gray line, do what's best or easiest for you. Don't be afraid to turn your work. Use a little bit of water in moisture to thin that gray paint down, and just kind of paint the strokes of the wheel here. Some cross over. They're not exactly like pieces of a pie or making wedges like pies. Some of your spoke, these are called spokes, Stephen? I think they are.
Yeah,
Some of these,
that's right.
okay, some of these are going to cross over when you look at a bicycle wheel. So let's just go ahead and paint those in now. But they all head towards this center here. So kind of think of that as like maybe a bullseye, and just start making a line or two. And occasionally let some of them cross over. So just draw lines. And for me, right now, what I just started, and it doesn't mean that that's the correct way. I want you to find your happy medium. I started on the more like the licorice end of it, pulling towards the center. And I am just using that liner brush loaded with a thinned amount of our gray paint. The gray again is our classic French gray. And I am stroking all of these little spokes towards the center. I don't want you to be nervous about the fact that you don't have a pattern line. If you by chance are a beginner painter painting with me tonight, this actually might be better for you to paint without having the lines to have to stay within. So do a few on the first bike. And then if you feel like you've got enough, that's great. Move on to the second bike wheel or tire. This one might be a little more difficult, that you do have to work around the red areas. Don't forget to let a few cross over each other. And then where they cross is they cross mostly as it gets closer towards the center of the tire. All right. And then if by chance you haven't covered up that little, what I was calling maybe a hubcap area, the center of that, you can go ahead and paint that in. Again, with your liner brush and your gray. Then let's go ahead and do the same thing with the area where our pedal is. There is a few little spoke marks, almost like spokes on a wheel. Those are just simply lines. These are a little bit thicker. And these do not cross over. I just kind of made, and this looks more like the pie wedge idea. All right. Now I did do a little bit of shading on my bike. If you'd rather keep your bike all bright and beautiful and red like this, you can. If you want to add a little bit of shading on your bike, that's the next thing I'm going to do on mine. I'm going to use this liner brush, and we're going to do some brush mixing. I'm going to load it with my apple red, and I'm going to bring a little bit of apple red over into a separate little pile here closer to me. I'm also going to dip my brush into our black, and ever so slightly bring just a little pile of black. It's just on the tip of my brush over here into our red, and kind of brush mix it's going to make a more like a burgundy color. So I want to bring a little bit more red over. The black is a very strong color, so you want to use just a very small amount of the black. And with this now fresh burgundy color that we made using our apple red and our licorice on the liner brush, I'm now going to add just a few little shaded areas on the red of our bicycle. So I'm going to start on this first support piece that holds the front of the bike and the handlebars. On the handlebar section here, where it meets the silver of our handlebars, I'm just going to, at the base there, I'm just going to touch down and pull out a little bit. Right up there, I added a little bit of that dark burgundy where it touches that silver, and I'm going to pull it out a little bit. Now I'm going to continue on the opposite end where that silver is of the handlebar, where it starts the vertical post portion of our bike. I'm going to come and touch right down next to the silver, and then I'm going to pull it down on the front side of that vertical support piece. So I'll bring that up, and you can see I darkened the front of that vertical post. Then what I'm going to do, and I'm going to bring that all the way across and down into the spoke of the wheel. Now the fender part here of our bike, it gets shaded on either side of where that vertical support piece kind of splits them. So I'm just going to touch down on the fender and then pull out a little bit on either side where it meets that vertical support. I'm going to continue doing the same idea on these two support pieces that connect the front of the bike to the back of the bike. Again, with the burgundy or that dark mix that we made, I'm going to start on the support piece and just right where it touches the vertical post of the handlebars and the front wheel. And then I'm going to do the same thing on the other one, just touching down and pulling a little bit down. So I'm starting up here next to the vertical post and pulling down. Then what we're going to do is we're going to flip this around, and on these same two portions that are vertical posts, they're not vertical, I'm sorry, diagonal posts that connect the front to the back of the bike, we're going to do the same thing. We're going to touch down where they meet the support pieces, and we're going to pull up. Touch down and then pull up. We're going to leave the center a little bit free of that shading. On the support piece that holds the seat, that pole right there, at the bottom of that where it meets the guard that keeps the chain in place, we're going to touch down and we're going to pull up towards the seat. At the top of that, we're going to touch down where one of those little braces, the nuts or bolts or where he is. We're going to pull down. And then we're going to do the same thing in that little bit of a red between the two. And then we're going to pull up into the seat. And I basically shaded like the bottom of the seat. I'll bring it up so you can see a little bit closer. We have the back fender, and it is shaded. The back fender around the tire here is behind these three support pieces. So we're going to shade on either side of them, the back, and on this side, we're going to shade around there. Both sides of those vertical posts that support I guess it's the basket area. We have the horizontal red lines that support the pedal system at the bottom, and they need a little bit of shading now too. And I'm going to, on the part where the pedal is, I'm going to start at the very end there, and I'm going to bring that dark shading at the tip of that and then along the bottom of that, like runner, if you will, that protects the gears, or I guess those are gears. And then the one underneath, we're going to do the same thing and go ahead and along the back. There we go. There's one more area that you can shade with the red mixture if you want, and that now is these 3 poles here and the support piece that holds our flower basket. So again, we're going to just where it starts and meets another pole, we'll shade a little bit there, a little bit at the top of each of those poles where they begin, and then also where they meet near the spoke of the wheel, going upwards. I'm going to do just a little bit now on that back support piece that is holding our basket of flowers, that back seat. And that is, again, starting at the end of that piece and along the bottom. So just like we darkened both sides of our basket, we're going to darken both sides of this little support piece, the little runner. All right, friends, all we have left is our little bit of our flowers and our grass, and that is all done so easy. So I'm going to still work with my liner brush, but let me first draw on my palette here for you. The little flowers that are in our basket here, the little greenery, is absolutely so easy and so fun. I first started by making lots of stems of greenery. I'm going to use my liner brush, and I'm going to use our darker of the 2 greens. That's classic green. And here's your box that's on the back of your basket, okay? It's a little more slanted. What I want you to do is just draw lines coming out. They're not straight sticks. Think about like a fern or some greenery. There's going to be some taller, some shorter, but you're going to draw these coming out of your basket. Some might even dip down here between the seat. Some might fall way out here towards the edge, but just draw, and that's all going to be done with your liner brush and your dark green. Once you have one of these stems drawn, then you're just going to take that liner brush with the green paint. You're going to touch down at the top, and when you touch down, it's going to make a wider straight brush stroke at the tip. And then you're going to touch down again this way, and you're going to stroke inward. You're going to touch down this way, and you're going to stroke in. So you're going to have fatter portions or leaves towards the outside edge, and you're going to make almost like a little fern. I'll start mine, and you can see what I'm
Chris,
talking about.
before we get to the basket, can you show up the shaded areas that you just completed?
Oh, yes, of course. On the red of the bike?
Yeah.
Yeah. Let me go ahead and review that again. I started here on the handle, so I have where it meets the gray or the silver of our bike. I shaded at that base, and I went out towards the end of the handlebar. Then on this support piece here, I started up here where it meets the gray, and then I came along the front part of this vertical support piece. On the fender, I went on either side of this pole here breaks the fender. It's in front of the fender. So I went on either side of that. Our 2 support pieces that connect the front to the back of the bike, I started up here where it meets the pole, and I pulled down on both of them. Then I came down to the bottom, and I started at where it meets like the support piece of the seat and or the pedal portion, and then I stroke up. I went up with those strokes. Then on the bicycle post that holds the seat, I started at the bottom and I stroked upwards. And then I started where, excuse me, the 2 silver braces or nuts or bolts are, and I pulled downwards. On the seat itself, I started at the base of the seat, and I just did all along the whole bottom of the seat, leaving the top of the seat free of paint. Then on the back of the bike here, The fender, I did the same thing. These support poles, there's 3 of them here. They are on top of it. So I went behind it on either side of it, shading both sides of the fender behind these vertical support pieces. On the horizontal 2 pieces here at the bottom, which are around the chain length for the pedal system, I went on the tip here, I went towards the bottom, and I pulled it towards the back of the bicycle. Same thing on this one. And then the only other thing I did was on the seat portion, or the brace that holds this basket here. Like we darkened the left and the right of the basket, I darkened the left and the right ends of the support piece, and I started at the end and I stroked inwards. So that's all I did. And I'll bring that up one more time, or maybe I should bring up this one a little bit closer if that helps you. It doesn't really matter. Both of them are done the same way. I hope that answers everybody's question. And now let's go back to our greenery. The greenery, I'm going to load my brush with the darker green that we have on our palette here. This is classic green, liner brush, and I'm just going to use my brush up. I'll hold it up so you can see closer maybe. The tip of my brush, and I'm just going to pull from the basket outwards, and I'm just going to make a random display of varying heights, varying curves of like little bits of greenery. Some are tall, some are short, some cross over even. Okay. Now, and that's what this part was here. I started at the basket and I pulled color out. And I pulled this color. This is a #1 liner brush, same size brush we've been mostly painting with tonight. And I am pulling from the flower basket outwards. I am not pulling inwards. Okay. All right. So now what we're going to do is on this stroke where we have pulled that greenery out, I'm now going to start at the very tip of that, and I'm going to touch down, apply pressure, so that brush is going to fan out a little bit. And then I'm just going to loosen that pressure and then pull it gradually right into that stem. I'm going to touch, apply pressure, touch, lift, and, same motion. We are touching, applying pressure, lift and pull, lift and pull, lift and pull. So we're doing this sort of a thing on these tiny, tiny little ferns or greenery. So we're just going to do a couple here. I'll show you. You're going to keep just the tip of your liner brush. Let me show you one I just did right here. Keep just the tip of your liner brush touching the surface so that you are not using a tremendous amount of pressure. It's just a very light pressure, and it's a very quick movement. You're touching and pressing and lifting very quickly just to kind of get a little bit of a movement of like greenery on this stem. Let me show you the back end that I just did. It's a touch, lift, press, touch, lift, press. So it's very, very simple. And yes, you see, I start at the tip and then I alternate going down the sides of these stems. They are not equally apart from one another. Almost like what you would think of as like alternating in height or direction. Okay. While we have that on there and it's drying, let's go ahead and get a little grass down a foreground, and we're going to do this same kind of a thing along the grass. So let me show you on my grass here. I'm going to switch, just set this brush down aside for a moment. Go back to your #8 or #12. I had a #12 flat brush. I'm going to take that and load it with this same green mixture, which is again our classic green. And I'm going to take that chisel edge of the brush and just scoot back and forth. Just kind of wave it back and forth to give us a little bit of ground for that bike so that the bicycle is no longer floating in midair. So I'm taking that brush loaded with our green. This again is the classic green, and you can see I'm using the chisel edge of my brush, and I'm just waving that brush back and forth. I want it to be somewhat jiggity-jaggedy, if you will. That's a good painter term. I don't want it to be painted in solid. I want to give it a little bit of texture of grass down there. So again, that was just the chisel edge, and I kept waving it back and forth, almost like I was seesawing with the chisel edge of my paintbrush. Once you have now some ground, and if by chance, as you seesawed that color along, let's say you got a little bit up on top of your tires, that's okay, because maybe that's a thicker patch of grass or field than your tires kind of sunk down in the green grasses there. So I'm going to put that brush aside. I'm going to go back to this liner brush, same color, and I'm going to pull some more of these little stems up. They're almost like tall grasses, so you can pull some up over your tires. This is where, like, if you did let's say you couldn't get the rounded shape of that tire and you kind of ended up with a point at the bottom of your tire. This is where you can kind of camouflage it, y'all. So use your liner brush to help line up some tall grasses and then also some greenery. And you can do them in patches if you want, or you can do them all the way across the bottom. I've got some on mine right now. They're just very irregular. Some are going to flow towards the right. Some are going to flow towards the left. They can cross over one another. You can do them in clumps if you want, or do them sparsely spaced across the bottom. And remember too, you can camouflage over some of your sections of your wheels maybe that you didn't like. And then what we're going to do on this is leave some of these as grass, but some of these we might want to put just a little bit of that little fern stroke on. So you can start at the tip and touch down and pull some more of that greenery. I wouldn't do too many of these, but a few here and there might be just a fun little accent of the field that your little bicycle's in. Starting on the tip and then just touch down, press, pull, lift, touch down, press, pull, lift. It's just a very fast little movement. And like I said, don't get too carried away. Just a few here and there. Because remember, some of these will also have our little flowers on them. So right now I've got my grass in. I've got some sprigs of these little greenery down at the bottom. I've got all my sprigs and my greenery in my basket. The last thing we want to do to all of this little green area is to add our purple flowers. And earlier we put out onto our palette some violet pansy. I'm going to use that same #1 liner brush. Mine had some moisture in it. So I'm kind of working that brush here on my palette, thinning it with a little bit of water. What we're going to do now is add some of these little flowers. So the flowers are the same movement that we did for these leaves. But what we're going to do is, here's our flower stem. So we're going to work them in the basket here. What we're going to do is we're going to do them in clumps of 3s. So we'll start at the tip and we'll have that first little stroke there. And then we're going to add 2 little strokes right next to it. So there's 3, like a triangle of makes up flower. Then we're going to leave a little bit of that stem line, come down and do another set of 3. And then we're going to leave a little bit more, come down and do another set of 3. So our little flowers are like lavender type flowers, and they're in 3 little strokes, same stroke here, but you're putting them together in a triangle. You're using violet pansy and you're doing them 3 in a grouping. And these 2 are going to be very, very small because we don't have huge flowers. I'll do a couple here on mine and then I'll show you. The lavender is a very small, delicate flower. And we don't want to overpower our design. So just pick a green stalk and just make a few little spaces for our purple flowers. Again, they're 3 in a row. You're touching, pressing, and lifting. Let me put one more in here. I've got 3 I'm going to work on, and I'll show you. Once you feel like you've got enough flowers in your basket, I'm going to raise mine up. Can you see the purple now added to the greenery? I'm going to put some more flowers in my basket, but once you feel like you have enough flowers in your basket, using this method right here, then you can do the same thing on some of the stalks in amongst the grass at the bottom. So it's just 3 little marks in a triangle shape. And I'm going to add a couple spilling out over my basket here. Maybe a little over this way. And now I like what I've got in my basket, maybe a little bit more here in the center. Give myself a little bit more lavender. And then I'm going to add some to my ground. We've got some lavender kind of growing out of the ground here. We're in a little field of lavender. We took a bike ride to the lavender fields in the middle of summer. We must be in France, y'all. This stroke, just like we did our greenery, is done with a very small paint on our brushes, and we're using only the tip of the liner brush. Three little strokes. They form a triangle. Maybe one over here. Okay. Now, what I did add 3 little butterflies in mine. You may or may not want the butterflies in yours. They're done with this same concept that we've done with our greenery and our purple flowers. Let me bring this up and I will show you. The flowers the butterflies are varying colors. This one's more like almost like a dragonfly. This one is kind of like a butterfly. Here's a profile of a butterfly. But when you look at them, if we look at this one right here, can you see it's that same little stroke pulled in, stroke pulled in? Then we flipped our canvas around and we pulled these 2 strokes in. And then I came back with a little head that's green and then a body that came down between the 2. You can also start with the body and then pull your butterfly wings in towards that. If we start with the body, I would use my liner brush. And I'll do one here real quick for you. And we'll go ahead and put it in about the same spot. I'm going to do a little bit of a head, just a tiny little circle of a head. Let me show you that. Then from that head, I'm going to pull the body out. I'm going to touch the head and I'm going to pull it out kind of like a very small little curving stroke because I don't want a big, big butterfly. So there's a little stroke I pulled from that center head curving downward. And now I'm going to create my butterfly wings. So I think I'm going to use a little bit of our Daybreak and a little bit of our apple red. And I'm just going to brush mix a lighter color here. So I was kind of making almost like a pinky melon color. And this will be the top wings. So I'm just going to get my brush loaded with that brush mixture. I'm going to start on the outside of the wing, just like we started on the outside of the greenery and the outside of the flower. And I'm going to pull towards this body. Let me bring it up so maybe you can see closer. I'm just going to touch down and pull and lift. So we've got one little wing on there. And then I'm going to touch down and pull on the opposite side. So now we have 2 butterfly wings. My lower wings are a little bit darker in color. So I'm going to use this where I have more, where I started brush mixing and I have more red on this side. So I'm going to use a darker red here. And I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to touch on the outside, pulling towards the greenery of the body, that is. And do the same thing on the other side. And now I have a little tiny butterfly. If you want to add antennae, you can, but you know what? We have the illusion of the butterfly. People look at it, they know it's a butterfly. You don't have to get too exact. I did the same thing with this little fella out here, but this one I did with the lavender, which is our, I made it a lavender, I should say, and I used our violet pansy and our wicker white for this particular bug. And over here, I did just 2 wings, an up wing and a lower wing with the same green body and round head. And this one created a little profile of a butterfly. So I can do those real quick for you. We'll go ahead and put in the head and pull a body. And we'll do the same thing over here. We'll do a head and we'll pull a body. This one was a little bit longer, so I think that one might be more like a dragonfly. This butterfly over by the seat is the same color palette as the one I just taught you. So I'm going to take the lighter mix here of the upper wing mix and make the upper wing for just one now for the profile. And then I'm going to take that darker mix for one lower wing. Again, just the profile. And then for our little lavender one, we're going to take a little tiny bit of our purple, which is our violet pansy. I'm going to take a little bit of my white, make a kind of lavender color. And this one, I'm going to have just a little brush mix of both colors, and they're the same color for both the upper wing and the lower wing. And they are more like a flat stroke coming all the way out. It's more of a longer stroke. So I think it's more like a dragonfly. And the top and the bottom are all the same colors, unlike the other butterfly that was different colors. So there's our little lavender one. And that's all I did to create a ride in summer. Do we have any last questions, Stephen?
I am scrolling up to make sure that I didn't miss any, but I think we're good.
Okay, good. Well, I appreciate each and every one of you for showing up tonight and painting along. I can't wait to see what you do. Be remembered, please take pictures and share them and post them in our Let's Paint with Plaid group. Use the hashtag Make It With Michaels. Use the hashtag Let's Paint Challenge, because everyone at Michaels wants to be able to see your work. And I know all of my good friends and coworkers here at Plaid love seeing your work as well. So please do that. I want to set this aside for a moment, and I have 2 show and tells with me tonight that I'm going to share with you right now. I'm going to have a little preview for each of you to have a sneak peek as to what the classes will be here in Michael's Community Classroom for our August classes. So let me share with you that this painting right here, entitled Sunflowers Galore, is going to be held on the 13th of August. This will be taught by our good friend and fellow painter, Donna Dewberry. She is the original designer of the one-stroke method of decorative painting, and she will be teaching Sunflower Galore. She will be here at Plaid that week, so she will be teaching that Tuesday night. Again, it's the same time, Tuesday evening at 7:30 p.m. And all you need to do to register for this class is the same thing you did for this class. So I hope you all will sign up and join Donna for Sunflowers Galore. Again, that was the 13th. Yeah, 13th of August. And then our very own Emma Panuski here is a content creator at Plaid. She will be teaching this class entitled English Tea and Peonies, and that will be taught on the 27th of August. So mark your calendar for the 13th and the 27th. I hope you all decide to join us for another Paint Night Live here in Plaid Crafts and Michael's Community Classroom. And I hope you enjoyed our ride in summer this evening too. So thank you, Stephen, for being with us this evening. And thank you, Michaels, for hosting our class. I'm Chris Williams, and I hope you all had a wonderful evening. Until next time, thank you, everybody.